Hello, listeners. This is Jamie Lynch, your host for the Eating Habits Podcast. I'm so excited to welcome you all to our premiere episode. Today, I'm going to be speaking with my business partners, Patrick Whalen and Alejandro Torio. It's going to be a really nice conversation about the future. Many and most of you are familiar with our origin story and kind of how we got together about a decade ago, or over a decade ago, to launch Five Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. But this conversation is about the future. I know everybody's had a rough couple years with the pandemic. We have too. We feel you. But I want to look to the future. I want to talk about what inspires us and how we made it through and what we're going to do to help heal the restaurant and hospitality business moving forward. Without any further ado, here's Patrick Whalen and Alejandro Torio on Eating Habits. We are live. Today, I'm here with Patrick Whalen and Alejandro Torio, the elusive Alejandro, on our podcast. And today, guys, I want to talk about, I don't want to do a origin story conversation. I think that that's well documented all over everywhere. So people, if you want to know about our origin story, just, do some research. It's out there. Today, I want to talk about the other side of the pandemic and what the future holds for Fifth Street Group and the changes that we've made since the shutdown and where we're going to go from here. Sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Who wants to go first? Alejandro, tell me a little bit about.
Well, it's my first podcast, so.
Well, welcome aboard, my man. We'll go easy on you.
Please.
Okay, cool. So let's start here. What was the pandemic situation like for you when we had the restaurants closed down, when we were trying to figure out how we're going to get through all this? Super stressful time for everybody. Once it became clear that we were going to be able to reopen our restaurants, right? Because there was a large period where we weren't sure what was going to happen. But then there was a point, we figured out that we definitely would be able to reopen. What was that like for you? What were you thinking about at that time? And kind of what was the focus for you moving into the reopen?
I mean, it was a relief that we know what we have to do now. Still, that thing we didn't know, what was going to happen. Were people going to go out to eat dinner? Were people going to go out at all? It was still one of those things where if we were going to get any business, it was that unforeseen still. Obviously, seeing things in the news all the time, we're like, okay, people are staying home still. We got a shot here to try to change things a little bit, reopen, whatnot. But I was still terrified. I just didn't know if it was gonna work. But you know what? We just put our sleeves up, make it happen, I guess, like we always do. And obviously in the beginning it was very hard, especially navigating between two states then, and between North Carolina and South Carolina, and then I think we were in the middle of building out in Tennessee, 2021. Yep. So that was even harder, between the different laws that you have to learn, different mandates, things like that. But, we made it happen, and we're here now almost a year later, right?
Yep.
Yeah, almost a year later.
Yep.
Nashville is finally opened. We opened in September. I've been living there full time, so it's doing very well. I see, we see Charleston doing extremely well and Charlotte doing very well. So, yeah, I mean, at the present moment, we feel very good about it, I think. I think you guys agree with me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the future here pretty soon. At that time, was your concern mostly about what was going to happen at the restaurants? Were people going to be receptive to going out? Was business going to be enough to sustain? Or was there something else to it, Was it a fear of getting sick? Was it a fear of, what are social habits going to be like?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything, between people saying, should I even go out? Or should I just stay home? Or, it's just didn't know, obviously. But we all had to reopen. We couldn't stay closed forever, going to debt and all that stuff. So, yeah. I mean, I honestly, I hate to think about it a lot,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like one of those, that total gloom, and
hopefully that's a once in a lifetime thing that
Yeah.
we'll never have to go through again. It's like we can knock on wood and move on and say we lived through that.
got a lot of gray hair from that.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I started this new haircut because of because of all the gray that started on the sides. I'm like, I got to get the fade so that you can't see all that gray. Pat, what about you? On the other side of the closures and stuff coming out of that, how were you feeling? Were you feeling about the reopen?
It was, I think I agree with Ollie. I think it was a little nerve wracking just because you're more or less reopening restaurants. And in some cases with a new team, new management team, new staff, new menus, that's a lot of work. And so it was simultaneously stressful, but it was also a relief because we were back to doing what we know how to do. Mm-hmm. It's hard to sit on the sidelines, like Ollie said, and just like wait and hope. It's a better feeling to like feel as though you can put some of that stress towards things that are productive or ideas. And so I was happy we were back in the restaurants. Obviously, making the restaurants go financially was a concern because we were really underwater at that point, as I think were most people. But at the end of the day, I think that great product wins. And so as long as we were able to execute, which we did, we would ultimately be okay. It was just a little hairy there for a little bit.
Totally. I think you nailed it. I also was apprehensive, but I was excited. Like when we decided to reopen, I think it kind of goes along with what you're saying. It's like getting back to doing what I know how to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, finally. Because I'm no good
right.
when I'm not doing that, right? So there was a little bit of a relief that we were going to be able to get back to it. And I think that we were pretty realistic, understanding, too, that it wasn't going to be like flipping a switch. That we were
right.
like, oh, floodgates are open, let's do it.
Also, I mean, we had so much to do that I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, starting in, August or September of 2020, we opened Tempest.
Right.
Then February we opened Church&Union Charlotte, and then in April we opened La Belle Helene, and then in August we opened. September we opened Church&Union Nashville, while simultaneously doing a deal for Denver, doing another deal in Nashville, opening and then ultimately closing and wrapping up the deal with Sophia's Lounge.
Yeah.
I mean, we
busy.
had just a ridiculous amount of work to do, just on its face. Forget about the actual operations themselves. Sure. Just physically opening those places was an enormous amount of work.
Of course, the traveling involved was the toughest thing, I think, for me. I'm not sure about you guys, but going between Nashville, Charleston, and Charlotte, then eventually Denver here and there, it took a toll on all of us.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we work hard, and we just made it happen.
How did we do all that? How much of that was? I mean, I have my own opinion as to how we did it. But my opinion? Yeah. I just think we're fucking badasses, to be honest. I mean, well, no, we are, but more than that.
No sleep. That's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, minimal sleep. I think that we are all driven to not fail, and to excel. And so when like those, for me at least, when these like crazy situations arise, and it feels like they kind of go in waves, right? Like it's like undulating where not much is going on for a bit, and then it's like, holy shit, we have a lot of work to do. We got restaurants that need to open, or we got managers we need to train, or whatever, and it kind of happens in like these lumps. That I think that we have an amazing team where we're able to get everybody on the same page and then execute. It's not always pretty. I mean, it doesn't always feel good, but we get it done. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Al? How do we get through? Like, actually, listening to Patrick replay our playlist for the past, 18 months or longer.
I mean, I didn't include us opening and closing the restaurants in 2020.
Right. How do we do it? In your opinion?
I don't know. I mean, I guess waking up every day at 5:30 in the morning did it.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Getting half a day of work in before the workday starts.
Yeah, I mean, you get a piece of paper, you write down your little checklist, what you have to do for tomorrow, the next day after that. Make sure you cross it all out. That it's done, it's done, it's done, and slowly you start seeing everything, and it comes to light. So, I mean, we still do that every day. Mm-hmm. So, nothing changes. That was before the pandemic and after, or still present, I guess, So
Pat, what do you think? What's your opinion on how we made it happen?
Well, there's lots of things. Obviously, when you've got this many operations and this many people, you know, you're not doing one thing well. You got to do a lot of things well. But I don't think we ever viewed it as much of a choice. And it's amazing what you're able to do when choice is eliminated and you just your life becomes binary and you live fight or flight, and you know, we fight. Yeah. So, as some people may attest to, you know, and so we didn't. I mean, obviously, we thought about negative consequences, but there was no way not to. The Damocles sword was directly over our heads, but I don't think any of us thought of closing the stores down or not making it as a practical option. That wasn't something that inhabited us at any time in any real serious way. And you just, each day you focus on, like Ali said, like what needs to happen to get through today, to get to tomorrow. And then obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but we have a really great team. In fact, something that, you know, we could talk about whether it's during this podcast or separately is that we've done a really terrific job as ownership building a good team.
Yeah. I think we should get into that next. Actually, we should talk about it.
So after tonight at 11, I think that was the big thing was just being able to pick up a phone and call someone and say, hey, I need this thing done, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then to know that it's done.
Right.
That's something that when you are the beneficiary of a great team is really unmatched in its value.
I mean, another thing I think is, you know, knowing that you were in all that debt, and in 2020 seeing the numbers, and then eating ramen and canned goods for a month or two, I said to myself, I'm not doing this shit again. No way. I'm gonna, you know, never doing this again.
That's funny. That's not funny. Sounds are funny. Yeah, that was not an option, for sure. So what's the team? I think we should talk about the team. I think cultivating the team is important because it goes along with what I want to talk about next, which is where do we go from here? Nashville's open. It's on pace to do exactly what we expect it to do and to be a great success. So that's awesome. We had to keep obviously working at that. You know, LaBelle, I mean, that kind of fell into our lap. None of us saw that coming. That just kind of was an opportunity that kind of arose out of the pandemic, and we jumped on it, and that has been an amazing success so far, knock on wood. But I think you guys are both right. You know, the team is so integral in the success of all of those moves that we made that I think we should talk about that a little bit. We should talk about our teams and how we came across them, how we cultivated them. What do you look for, Pat? Like, what is it? I mean, so right now we've got Madison White, VP of Operations. She has been, you know, a crutch for us as far as getting shit done. I know Adam Hodgson for me is like, I'd be fucking lost without him right now. Like, he is just taking up so much slack and has become just a fucking powerhouse from a management side of things for me, from a back of the house perspective. You've got Abby Armstrong, who is, I mean, she's beast mode when it comes to the marketing stuff. I mean, I can't imagine what our team would look like without those guys. How did you find your significant other, right?
Well, I forgot how, I gotta look back. I guess Abigail Armstrong, I guess she interviewed online. Maybe it was through Craigslist or Indeed, I don't remember. But I saw her resume. It was interesting. She looked like a person who knew how to do things where she could produce things on her own. And when I interviewed her, I said, damn, she has good quality. And then we brought her on. And as the years went on, she's been with us for maybe 5 years, 4 years now.
Sounds about right.
Man, she has the same quality traits. She wakes up every day, I think 5:30, 6 o'clock. She has her checklist. She crosses them all out. Things are done. She gets things done. I mean, in this business, doing marketing, PR, promotions, whatever, it's not a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job. It's a 7-day-a-week job. It's like a 12-hour day. It could happen at 6 in the morning. It could happen at 10 at night. Whatever's going on, you know. I always believe marketing and the promotion side of our business is a support system for the restaurant. You know, I always tell Abby, and Abby knows this with all the people who works for her now, is that, you know, we're the support system for the restaurants. You know,
How
the
many
restaurants.
People, how many people work with Abby now?
I think 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's you, Abby, and then you have
3 other people. Yeah, under them, and it's going to grow. I mean, I always told those guys, and Abby, Abby in particular, is that our business is based on the restaurants open 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and we close at 2 o'clock sometimes. And you're gonna get called at 1 o'clock in the morning. You're gonna get text at 12 o'clock. Doesn't mean it's meant for you, but if it's meant for you, you gotta answer that call. You gotta answer that text. So that job is definitely a 24-hour, 7-day a week job. People, it's not a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
So and it takes a lot to do that work, that kind of work. And I got lucky. We got lucky. We found Abigail.
Totally.
So
how long did it take for you and Abby to kind of cohesively work together, like as a unit?
2 years probably.
Yeah.
The first year was slowly. The second year, I think she got my way of thinking, and now 3 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is now, she's almost a duplicate of me. Yeah. Maybe.
I'll toot Abby's horn a little bit too, and I think one of the things that really makes her special, on top of all the things you mentioned, is that she's able to translate whatever you're doing over there.
Yeah.
Like whatever the hell's on your notebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And communicate it to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Like she can communicate to us in a way where it's like, okay, cool, we get what you need.
She kind of reads my mind sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think she's just used to how I want things done. And then, she adapts to it and, might add things to it that's better for the business because, they are in a younger generation than I am. So
totally. Cool. Pat, how about you? What's up? How did you, I just did a podcast with Madison, so we know her origin story. Mm-hmm. We know kind of where she came from. For you, from your perspective, like identifying her as a potential next leader for us and for you, and then that development, like how'd that happen for you?
I mean, her aside, I think that the personality trait that most commonly is filled by people that are successful, especially in our business, is that they do the job regardless of you. Yeah. Now, certainly they care about your opinion if you're their boss or somebody they look up to, and they learn the job based on the way that you train them, but they don't do the work because they want you to be happy with them, although that's certainly a nice thing. They do the work because it's what you do. It's the right thing to do. You work hard because that's how you work. You don't halfway it. You don't come in and, wear just your shirt and no pants. I mean, you do it all the way. And so Madison, as well as, Nick Newton, Daphne Michael, we have a lot of young talent. Laurencia's spectacular, that is very motivated. And I don't want to leave anybody out with lots of managers. Yeah. So it's not as though I'm listing people for the purposes of excluding others, but we just have a lot of really talented people that are motivated independent of our role, and then our role enhances that by focusing that motivation in a way that's productive for them, where they can see advances in their own skill set. And so it's a mutually beneficial relationship. An employee-employee relationship is, in my view, oftentimes miscategorized as being, somebody's in charge and somebody's not, even though that is functionally how it works.
Right.
I think an employer-employee relationship, if you want it to be a good one, should be a partnership, always. And whether or not they want to continue to invest or you want to continue to invest in them is a different subject. That's a conversation. Right. But if you're not looking at every employee that you have as a one-day partner, then in my opinion, you're not doing much of a job.
I would say that we have a very strong group in our midst right now. It's a good thing because we have big plans, right? We've got a couple new ventures that we're currently working on in the pipeline. Ophelia's in Nashville, which is going to be, how would you describe Ophelia's, Alejandro?
An Italian pizza lounge joint.
An Italian pizza lounge joint.
We're trying to still figure that out over there, but we'll figure it out in a month or two.
And then Church&Union, Denver, which is going to be a big monster operation.
Yep. Not looking forward to moving all the way out there, but like I said, I put my sleeves up. We're going to go.
What's the plan for that? Do you have a plan for that? Or is it just kind of like
Patrick's, still dealing with, the build out kind of stuff that's going on over there. I'm looking at maybe 6 months before we open there, hopefully we open by 2023. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we open late.
Late
and we
2023
open.
or
Yeah,
you think Q4 2023?
I mean, if things, excuse me, if things, if things go to plan, then it'll be earlier than that. But
Yeah.
I have yet to see things go to plan when it comes to construction. So
Especially right now.
I'm going to go ahead and assume
Late.
I think right now we're gonna focus on Ophelia's first, since that's already happening, and we're hoping to open by the end of this year, 2022. So since I'm living there full time, I'll be there all the time.
And
But
Chef
eventually,
Adam's there.
and
Chef
Chef
Adam's
Adam's
there,
there,
so
and you
that's-
guys are there a lot. So Madison's there a lot. Yeah, so we'll work on Ophelia's. But eventually, I'm gonna have to move out there, and I think I'm trying to convince Abby to move out there, Abigail. Let's see how she thinks about that.
What's her take on that right now? Is she open?
I don't know.
Really considering it?
She's open, but I think she's half and half right now to going out to Denver. But it doesn't matter. I always believe I was going to be the guy that go out there anyway.
So good thing we have these teams, right? So I guess that's the point. Is that in order to, I guess expand and open these places, we're going to need to use these teams.
Yeah.
For sure. Adam right now is in Nashville. Has been there for, a little more than that, 8 months at least. He'll be there for at least another 6 months. I think we just hired an executive chef.
Adam's not going to go anywhere. I'll bet you.
What? You think he's going to stay in Nashville?
Yeah.
They don't. They hate it there.
No, they don't. I think they'll stay.
You mean they miss the beach? They miss
I think so. I don't know.
She wants to live out west. I could see them going to Denver.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to figure that one out.
It's a predicament.
Actually,
That
makes sense.
I will say that would be perfect for me.
Yeah.
If he goes,
That actually
if he
makes
goes to
sense.
Denver. Cool. That's great. I hope that's true. We'll have to circle back on that.
He used to live out there too.
He lived out there.
He was out there years ago.
So we have our executive leadership kind of, they have those super leadership traits that were easy to see. You can kind of pluck them out of the group and
Chorus
then
line.
out of the
You
chorus
pick
line.
them out of the chorus line.
You could, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a chorus line.
That's
it
an
could
expression.
Be, it could be any number of groups of things. It could be a gaggle of of hens. You'd pick them out. But anyway, so we have those people that are you can identify the leadership in them, right?
You're saying there are people that are easy to identify? Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Easy.
As opposed to saying this sentence, which is challenging. Go ahead.
How do you identify the staff that you want to invest in to groom into leadership?
Right.
What are the traits that you look for? How do you pick them out? And then what is the actual
Process. I mean, the first thing is, and this is probably the same in the kitchen too, I'd imagine, is that it's sort of a reciprocated relationship where they say to you they want more, and you say to them they're doing a great job, and you want to give them more. And who says it first is not particularly important, but rather that relationship is obvious from an early phase, which is like, okay, if you're hired to be a dishwasher and you're like cleaning the whole restaurant and you just take it upon yourself to do responsibilities, like I said before, that are not necessarily yours, but you're doing because that's what your job is. That person, if you notice them or if I notice them and say, hey, would you like to do more? And they say, yeah, I'd like to do some more. Then suddenly you've got somebody who fits the profile of most successful people that we've come across. So I think it starts with that first step. And then obviously giving them the training that they need to be successful in a leadership position is the most important thing. You can take somebody who has all the natural raw talent in the world and then mess up their training or not give them any or ignore them or whatever. And what's going to end up happening is that they're going to get sour, not just on your business, but on the restaurant business as a whole, because they're talented and they can't do anything with it. And in fact, they're being told this is the next step for you, and the next step is so unappealing that they're unhappy. And so having a good MIT program, manager and training program, or chef and training program, having good people to look up to as a model, not just the top leadership and say, okay, well, Jamie was once washing dishes or or Pat was once washing dishes, but rather that the next step for them and then the next step after that are visible. So you're a line cook today. Here's what a lean line cook looks like. You work right next to this person. Here's what a sous chef looks like. They're right over there. Here's what a service manager looks like. They're out front. And so it all feels tangible that path forward for them towards a real career in the industry looks and feels real because they can see people doing it rather than being some sort of like obtuse, opaque, far away goal that they'll never quite get to.
I mean, I think it's just hard trying to find someone to do what I do. I mean, I got
still
lucky.
don't even know how you do what you do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I got lucky finding Abby.
Yeah.
So, so we'll go from there. You know, maybe Abby will find someone else that she could help train, or I could find someone else. Because obviously, you know, we're at 6 restaurants right now, I think, and we're gonna eventually be at 10 or 12 in the next, 3 or 4 years.
Is that number accurate, Pat? I want to hear what your number is.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years. I mean, we know we're gonna open 2 restaurants in Denver. I mean, the plan was always 2 restaurants per city, 2 or 3 per city. Denver is the next city, and I think we have Scottsdale and Tampa, and these cities in our minds as well in the future, and Dallas probably. Well, I'm not sure about that. It's getting too high north. It's too cold up there.
Too cold. Denver is further north than Kansas City.
Although it was 60 degrees in Denver last week, and we were like, I was looking at that. I was like, Jesus, I wish I was in Denver today.
So obviously, our team has to grow even bigger. So
yeah. Do you guys think that we have the infrastructure that we need right now to do the growth phase that we're in? In other words, to do Ophelia's?
Yeah, we do. We have. I mean, the first step is to have let's call it the executive level leadership, and then the senior level leadership, and we have that, and then we also have a good workforce. So between the tip sharing system that we have for our service staff and the bartenders, and then the tip the kitchen that we have for the kitchen staff. That sort of, that's your blood flow. That's what makes it happen for you every day. These are the sales force. This is the people that bring in the revenue for the store. And so to have that and to have sort of the top level leadership in place can guide the ship anywhere you want to go. The mid-level management is what allows you to steer it with nuance and specificity, where you can avoid the rocks or the icebergs. Right now we're just a big giant ship steaming ahead going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you need that depth to be able to provide you the steering capacity. So I'd say we have the infrastructure to grow. We're going to need to backfill, some of those leadership positions, and probably with the people that are in, entry level or tipped or early level positions now would be the ones that ideally would fill those positions. Outside hires are obviously, we've talked about this many times, not really our favorite thing. We like to develop and promote from within. And so my guess is the thing that's going to fund our infrastructure more than anything else is just time. Just time to continue to bring in people, continue to train them, and let them fill in the spots where we need them.
Tell me a little bit about the MIT program, because I think that's important to this development, right?
Yeah.
So manager and training.
Massachusetts Institute for Technology.
Yeah.
We send all of our team to MIT.
We've got rocket scientists. So, I think, how does that work? Like, what do you identify the people that want more, right? We got to that part. You make it a mutual understanding that they want more. You think they're worth more, and then they enter the MIT program.
Meeting of the mind, so to speak.
Yeah. So what is the MIT program? How does it work? How long does it take?
Right.
What's the expectation for the executive leadership? What's the expectation from the staff members that are doing it?
Ollie should talk about this specifically about his training also, because he doesn't have an MIT program, but I would refer to what they do as more like a apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Because it's so specific and it's so nuanced that you really need to be right next to the person that's teaching you, if you want to operate on the level that he is. For a manager, for a chef, but we'll talk about managers since that's more my purview. We have classes. We have hour-long classes, and the classes could cover any number of things. Typically, there's certain functions that a manager needs to learn. What are the first 5 things you do first 4 things you do when you walk into a restaurant? How do you manage labor? Where should your time be? Where should your eyes be during service? What should you be looking at? How do you know where there's a problem, and what do you do to fix it? Those are the kinds of things that experience will teach you, but also you can kind of get a jump on by learning about from people that have had experience. And so we'll rotate in and out. Who does the classes? I'll do some. The GM of the respective stores should be doing some. The executive chefs. Right now, the MIT program is very fluid in so much as that that's a nice way of saying that it's not well structured. I think the point is to get these young managers that are motivated attention from people that have a lot of knowledge and just exchange ideas. I mean, schoolwork's great, but they're going to learn that through a lot of repetition. I think what we provide, what our lead management provides, is experience and that kind of specificity with their understanding of each situation that they can teach you in advance what to look for when it presents itself to you. So you got a problem table, steak's overcooked. As a new manager, you're going to be presenting that situation not infrequently. It's going to happen.
Yep.
Hopefully not too frequently. Come on, chefs.
We try,
but it happens, and so being prepared to deal with that as manager is something that you can learn in advance. That's not to say that you can learn how to deal with each individual guest 100%, but you can get the sort of the high points. It's like, okay, well, the ownership group would prefer that the guests leave happy than get their money. In that case, we made a mistake with their dish, and so we're going to comp the meal or that person's meal. We're going to get it out as fast as we possibly can. We're going to communicate in this way. We're going to tell the kitchen in this way. We're going to write it down on a ticket. All the things that happen from soup to nuts, no pun intended, for that situation. And then take that situation and multiply it exponentially by all the different things that can happen when you're working during a shift, and get the basics out of the way, and then you can start to expand from there. So MIT is about the functionality, but it's also about understanding sort of the vision and making sure that we're all on the same page as to what we want to get out of this. And that's the thing that I think the three of us, that's the thing that, over 10 years at this point, we have to have something between the three of us that is the glue that keeps it together. And it's not the success of the businesses, because there's been plenty of times where they've struggled, where we've struggled. And it's not that we're best friends, although I think we all sincerely enjoy each other's company. I think it's that we have a common view of what we're trying to get out of working in restaurants, being in restaurants, that we had something to say and that it was important to us, and this was our opportunity. And so that common ground has made us better just by being together, and hopefully that will translate to the people that work for us.
How about you, Alejandro? Pat made a good point about, your training situation is a little different than mine is, for sure. And kind of the classroom kind of structure that they have for the MIT. How do you approach training? Like go back to, training Abby or maybe a new marketing person.
How are we training Emma? That's a good question.
Well, actually, Abby is the one hands-on with that, because they both live in Charlotte. They're both based out of Charlotte. They're in the same room together. So, when Abby started, obviously we were working together in the office, 5 days a week, and we interacted with each other and talked to each other, and basically, showed her, this is what I want to do. This is how I do it. And I want you to do it like this first. And then we'll adapt accordingly what you think might be a better way of doing it. I'm always open to it, because, the younger generation definitely has a better eye on things. A, they go out more. B, they're on social media more. So there are things that I don't know out there, and I'm always saying to myself, let's do it. I'm open to training, changing the way I think, because some of the things I did in the past probably wouldn't work now, So, and I'm always learning, and I'm learning from, them, and Abby's learning from me still.
I think that's a great trait, by the way, to be able to listen to the people that work for you. And to kind of suspend your ego and hear them and approach their ideas.
There's so many times, I would argue with Abby, why? And I say, why? And she says this reason. I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Do it.
Yeah.
You know, I whatever is best for the company, you know, and I would say yes to.
What kind of things do you guys, when you're training and you're talking and like working together, what kind of things are you talking about? Like what, I honestly have no idea what you guys talk about. Like I know the results because I see it. Like I see it in the restaurants. I see the bodies at the late night parties. I see.
I mean, more like
let's take social media stuff. But like, what is the conversation? Like, what are you guys looking at? What are you?
I mean, like, you know, we always talk about, you know, for example, Nashville. We launched brunch, and how do we promote the brunch? You know, what are the vehicles, the avenues of ways of promoting the brunch? And we kind of have a system already. You know, first things, the press release. You work with your PR company, get the word out, and and along the line with that, you know, you create promotions, you know, through your social media outlets, through your newsletter, through influencers coming in to dine, things like that. But we're always on the same page with that kind of stuff now. It's like kind of automatic, actually. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, here's the list of the 50 things you got to do when you launch a brunch, and we make it just happens, you know. Yeah. It's not there's no real hiccups anymore. Yeah, like lunch is about to launch, I think, in a few weeks in Nashville. Mm-hmm. You know, we pick a date. We know when we're supposed to start the PR. We know when we start promotions. It's sort of like clockwork, to be honest. Once you're there living in a city and learning, you know, the market already, it's the ones that are newer to the newer markets that is a little bit difficult. That's why you have to move out there for 6 months and learn what's going on, which is like Denver would be a good example. So,
tell me a little bit about that. So what does that look like for you? Because obviously you know, we all go out together when we find a new market, right? We've got Pat's crazy board with all the demographics and shit on it. We end up picking some spots that sound interesting and then do the site visits and all that. And then once we get to the point where we all agree, like, hey, this is a great market, like, let's do this, you know, we got to get somehow dialed into that market. How do you do that? Like, what is, you know, you're talking about maybe 6 months ahead of schedule in Denver, you'll have to be out there. So what do you do exactly?
Find an apartment first.
Yeah.
and you just go out and you just meet.
When you're looking to an apartment, what are you looking for? Is it close to the restaurant?
Yeah, definitely close to the restaurant.
In the area?
Has to be in the area. Also, extra bedrooms so you guys could like crash.
Yeah.
But it's about just going out there, meeting the right people, finding the right PR companies is key. Finding a marketing coordinator that you could hire to join the team that's, you know, preferably local, that lives there, preferably who's already been in the business probably, and more importantly, just going out there and meeting the right people who has the same kind of, like, you know, mindset as you, in the sense of when it comes to the restaurants or hospitality in general. Mm-hmm. You know, who'd be there to support you.
Are you looking specifically for people that do marketing for restaurants or bars, or are you just looking for like
someone who's a good networker, a good marketer? You know, you don't have to be a good marketer, you know, coming from the restaurant business. You could be a good marketer coming from the bank or some other business. It's just transferring over your knowledge to the restaurant scene. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not that hard, actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's just certain things you got to do, the fundamentals of it. So.
So what's next after? What are the aspirations for each of you guys outside of, let's say, Church&Union Denver, right? So we're going to get Ophelia's rolling this year. Next year, we're going to crush out Church&Union Denver. You know, that's going to take some time. You know, that's going to be a 12-month project where we're constantly out there, constantly, you know, working on it to get it where we want it to be. But then what does the future look like after that for you guys right now?
I think, you know, while we're building that out and then targeting those other 2 or 3 cities, I think if it works out, you know, in our schedule, you know, I always told this to Pat that, you know, we should open up a hotel. So I see that in our future.
That's something you want to do?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, being in the hospitality, it's part of being in the hospitality business. A lot of people I know, you know, growing up in New York, they were either promoters or in the nightlife business, transferred to restaurants, and now they're hotel guys.
What does that vision look like for you? Do you have any sort of, have you given any thought to like what region feels right? What do you want to do? Do you want, you know, our group to own and operate this hotel? Do you want, like, what is that
Yeah, I mean, I hope that could be part of our future. So, I mean, I'm seeing that in the next 5 years, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have a locate like a preferred
location?
location?
I mean,
Or
after,
have you thought
obviously
about it?
Charlotte would be ideal because we're originally from there, and our main base is there. But now living in Nashville, Nashville is a whole different beast.
Seems
It's a
like
beast.
there's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah. So maybe Denver. Who knows? Whatever is the best option at that moment. Who knows? A landlord might say, "Hey, we'll give you this building," and and with the best deal, and we say, "Okay."
Yeah. That's true. You never can tell. We've had some things just kind of fall out of the sky for us, for sure.
Like
Yeah. How about you, Pat? What's the future vision for you and the group and look like?
I think that we need. Well, my hope is that the growth will be secondary to our ability to continue to try to innovate it within the industry. That's the part that I find really interesting. Something that we don't ever talk about amongst the three of us is that, we don't have to be this involved if we don't want to. We don't have to go out to Denver and do all that. We've got a model that's proven, and it might take a little longer to start up, but, we can just pay people to go do all that and, do what most restaurant guys do, which is, you go out there a couple times, you make sure it looks good, you pay the right people, they do Zoom calls or FaceTime, but, that's not our approach. We take a lot longer because we are focused on every detail. And I think with that logic is that kind of, again, specificity with our knowledge, I'd like to try to apply it and do something good and try to make some changes in the industry. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, especially right now, but I think that the restaurant industry has been very good to us, but I think it's been very hard on us too.
Yep.
I know I feel that way. And we in turn have made it harder on the people around us sometimes. And I think that we are all aware of that and are trying to fix that and to try to take some steps to make the business better. And so surrounding ourselves with really intelligent people that are like-minded and motivated, that are going to come up with ideas like Ollie was saying, that, are part of that younger generation that are going to see things differently than the way things have quote unquote been done, is important. I keep saying to the lead management, I don't want to be a restaurant group anymore. I want to be a think tank. I want us to come up with great ideas that we give away for free, that are going to make our business better. Our model works. How many restaurants do we want to open and just fire them out on a conveyor belt? That's just not very interesting to me. I know you guys don't really want that either. I just want to do stuff that's going to be, it's going to make a difference. When we had something to say in the beginning, the way that we could say it was via opening a restaurant. Now we have a different kind of platform than we did then. And I'd like to take advantage of that platform for something positive and for something that is going to make, whoever the next Jamie is or Ollie or Pat, which some of them work for us right now, make their lives easier and not have to go through some of the toxic insanity that the restaurant business is so markedly known for. That's what I want.
I say that to the back of the house leadership all the time. I'm like, guys, my whole job right now is to let you guys to show you guys a path to where we are at, where you don't have to take the long road.
Right?
Because a lot of that, I don't regret my path to get where I'm at. I think it helped me develop professionally and all that stuff, and personally as well. But it was a long road that could have been much easier. And I could have spent a lot more energy on more productive things. I think that if we can get some of our teams to do that, the sky's the limit for them. Do you have any thoughts percolating in the back of your head about what that next innovation might be? Maybe we should do a whole podcast about Tip the Kitchen, because that is, right. I think Tip the Kitchen right now is just taking off. There's a lot of buzz around it. We're doing podcasts, we're doing news clips and all that stuff. And I think obviously that's our main focus right now, because I think that for real is an industry changing initiative that will end up being the future for hospitality. And I think part of our mission is to prove that, right? It's like, okay, we're going to implement this in all our stores. We're going to show that it works. We're going to do it in Denver. We're going to do it in Nashville. We'll do it everywhere we go to show that it works. Amazing idea that was, that came out of this whole pandemic thing. Are there any other thoughts percolating in the back of your head of what the next innovation could be?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that the restaurant business needs to do, and I actually heard this just recently earlier today, but this is true across the board, is that, we need to do a better job of integrating like communication to make everyone's lives a lot easier. The example I gave today was this red button business model, which is that if you book a reservation through OpenTable or Resi or some software, that every guest is given the option to press the red button once every meal. Every table, not every guest, but every table does. And that ensures that the manager will get an update on their phone or on the point of sale terminal saying that table 20 needs you right now. And what that does is it speeds up the time during which most of the anger happens at restaurants. There's a problem with a table, whatever it is, and they want to communicate it to somebody who's able to fix the problem.
Right.
But they have to wait for the server to come back, or a busboy, or a bartender, or whatever. They got to wait. And then that person has to go find the manager or managers and go get them, and they have to wait for that. And by the time the manager comes back over, let's say it's a undercooked steak, and you're waiting for somebody to come fix it for you. Your table's eaten half of their meal or more.
Right.
And so all you're guaranteeing is they're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Whereas this could speed things up. It's all, on a device. And so there's
sort of app or something.
It's not, no guest is snapping their fingers or waving somebody over, which inherently makes, the staff members angry because nobody likes to be snapped at.
Right.
The manager has a heads up of what they're walking into before they walk into it. So maybe there's a drop down option that says like, food cold, food issue, service issue, whatever.
Right.
And it allows the managers to do their job in a way that's less confrontational and faster and more efficient. And it's more efficient at a time that you really need efficiency. You need to get them their steak or their problem solved as fast as you possibly can. And frankly, your responsiveness is something that could be quantified ultimately in the review site. So when the reviews come up, if somebody gives a bad review, and well, did you click the red button?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, then why you didn't give them the opportunity to fix this?
Right.
If they click the red button, and it gives maybe the business the opportunity to give a response as to what they did, and maybe that's a whole new feature of reviews. I don't know. Yeah. It's just, so I think if we can, the biggest problem with the restaurant business, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's a toxic, unpleasant place to work sometimes. But the level of toxicity and the unpleasantness of it is unparalleled to most jobs. It's really, really hostile and unpleasant at times.
Right.
And I think our job is to try to narrow that and try to minimize that feeling. And so anything that we can do to speed the process up. I mean, look what OpenTable has done. Yeah. In the old days, you'd have a dude with like a giant book, and they'd have to figure out if they wanted you or not. You have to sit there and argue with the guy on the phone whether you get a reservation or not. I mean, this is the old way of doing things.
Right.
Now it's you go online, they have availability or they don't.
Yep.
And the restaurant controls what they have, and the guests can elect to go to a place or not based on the time that is available. That has minimized the amount of nasty, negative. I mean, maitre d's historically, do they have good reputations as being like likable, approachable people, or is it like they're mean, nasty, grumpy? And I understand why they are, because I was when I used to do that job. Yeah. Because it's hard fielding, guest needs. And so if this is a way we can kind of limit that, then it might work. I don't know. We got to pitch OpenTable, I guess, or Resi.
Sounds like you just got to work out the details of how this thing. Yeah, it's a good idea. How about you, Al? Any ideas?
I think I brought this up already with you guys. Maybe I haven't, but starting something part of our group where we do a philanthropic charity department in our company. Try to raise money.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. I think that's something that we got to do.
But I think a dedicated department just to do that.
Yeah,
and I'm already starting to work on it. We could do a lot. We're already doing a lot with the Children's Hospital. But we could do more with other, and we could do in all the cities that we're at. So I'm sure we'll hear about it in the next couple of months when we launch it. So
nice. Yeah.
I think we're a group of ownership that's unique in so much as that I don't think any of us really like know or are ready to have lots of money. Like,
No.
I think that we all do pretty well, frankly. I think people's understanding of how guys in our position do is very flawed.
Yeah.
You know, that we're rolling around like Scrooge McDuck in some giant, you know, water tower filled with gold doubloons is not a realistic description of what our lives are like. The three of us live together with our dogs and our kids
families,
and our spouses or significant others, you know, during COVID.
Yep.
You know, so we're, I think, about to break through to the other side of that economically, but the economics have never been the motivation for us. And so when we're in a position where we have a larger platform economically, I think I don't want all that. I would like to put a lot of it to use, whether it's seed money to people that work for us for a restaurant or a bar or something that they want to do or an idea they have, or it's working with charities like Alejandro's described. I love the idea. I think it's awesome. I know other restaurant groups have done it. I think, you know, us putting our own, you know, touch on it and our own branding is going to be really interesting and fun. Yep. But I think being motivated by more than just money is a really, really important part of this. Now, that's not to say that we don't care about being profitable. We do, but, you know, I think if it's a choice between making a really great living, but also being able to have people around you make a livable wage versus making crazy money and then everyone around you is broke all the time, like, I don't think it's much of a question for us.
Yeah. I totally agree. I was talking with the chef team in Charleston today, and we were talking about that exactly, how Tip the Kitchen has influenced their teams and their turnover and all that good stuff, and how the investment that we decided to make, right? Like, I think that was the kickoff point of how we could get Tip the Kitchen to work, right? Was, okay, this is going to cost money. Like, yes, the guests are going to, you know, participate and leave some tips, but that's not enough. That's not enough to get people where we want them to be. We need to pay people more. So we did that. That raised our operation costs, which dips into, you know, profitability and all that stuff. That alone wasn't enough. And I think that's where the match came in, right? It was like, okay, so we as ownership have to agree that there's a percentage of our business that we're willing to not take home to share with our teams in order to get them to a place where they're in, you know, and that to me is super inspiring. You know, I think it's super inspiring to them as well. Yeah. You know, the fact that we're able to give back to them and say, hey, you know what? Like, we don't need to make 15%, you know, profit margin. You know, we're okay with 12 or whatever, you know, whatever the number is. And I think that like sharing that with your team, it's inspiring for them to work for people that are willing, that aren't in it for the money, you know, like you were saying.
Hear that too. I'm gonna go off on this.
Yeah.
People hear that too, and it's like, I tell you, it's very strange, the world that we live in, is like how desperate we are to categorize and describe the people around us. We're so unwilling to like look hard at ourselves. That's not made up. I mean, I think that we sincerely want to share in the success, and we've demonstrated it with our business models. And it takes proving, or it takes the proving to do it. And so, you know, we've recently made, 6 people now, equity partners in our restaurants.
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. Madison White, Adam Hodgins, Lauren Kearsley, Alexa Anderson, or Alexa Gorman now, Abby Armstrong, and Nick Newton. That's the 6.
Yep. And now Alex Spencer as
Alex Spencer. Well, that's profit share. Those guys are equity.
Share, yeah.
So if they leave, they still own what they own.
And then Alex's profit share.
We actually have a few profit share, and so I think, you know, it makes you feel good, but it's also really good business because that means that you don't have turnover, you don't have all the misery that goes with it, you don't have to worry about calling somebody 10 times about a problem. Yep. You call them once, and how much is your time worth? It's just, you know,
they're invested. You know,
prioritizing your people over your profits leads to better profits. Mm-hmm. And I think people just gotta. It's like greed is just for the birds. You know, especially in what we do. Maybe there are industries out there where, you know, that efficiency has value, but like for us, you need to have tons and tons of people to make this go. I think we have 400 employees in our company, which is just ridiculous to think about.
That's great.
But it's like, they're not going to work for you if you treat them poorly, especially your lead management and your chefs. If you treat them like shit, they're going to go work, especially now, like they're going to go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so we need to put them in a position where they can see a real path forward. It's sort of the point that we kind of keep coming back to is that fixing the world economically for them allows them to stay the path. You know, there's always going to be examples like you, Jamie, that, you know, go through the ringer and just put up with everything and deal with all the insanity that is imposed upon you and the insanity that you impose upon yourself as being part of this industry. There are always going to be people that make it through that. But there are so many people that could have, but just economically can't because their job doesn't pay them right.
Yep.
And so by fixing things economically, whether it's by the way of tip the kitchen, $15 minimum wage, or some of the other stuff that we have in mind down the road, I mean, I'd love to have health insurance for everybody in our company. We got it quoted, I think it was $1 million. And I was like, well, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine, I'm down. But like,
how do we get to
do
that?
we add another line on the tip, on the receipt? Like, that's,
Right,
you know,
yeah,
sooner or
yeah,
later, it's too much. And so
We got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out.
Yep.
And so that's sort of, that's what I want for our staff. And that's what I want our company to be, is I want us to be, you know, the kind of company that prioritizes our people and then prove that that's at times even more profitable than the places that don't. And then hopefully people will change their approach.
So I wasn't sure how to answer that question that I asked you guys when we started this conversation, but I think through this conversation, it kind of led me to what my answer to that question would be, right? And so the question is like, what do I think, right, the future looks like for me or for us, or what I want it to look like? And I think that the answer now, after talking with you guys today, is I would like for us to go down a path of hospitality activism, to be working, taking our expertise, taking our experiences, our successes with what we're doing in our own businesses, and somehow, you know, activating that in the industry and getting other people to do it, and using whatever influences or power or connections or whatever we have to try to make that happen. Any last thoughts, guys?
How was my rookie debut?
You were awesome. Dude, you talked at least 80% more than I thought you were, which is amazing. I thought we were going to have to like pry some stuff out of you. You were great. I can't wait to do it again. Will you do it again?
Yeah, I'm sure we could do stuff like the actual work. Podcast.
Did you enjoy it? How
It was fun,
for you?
actually. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I could do this again.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for the hour. Thanks a lot. I think this is good content for people.
Woo!
Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Eating Habits podcast.